The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. In this episode, Stu and I will give you a deep dive into small business development and show you how to create a Bahamian-owned business from absolute scratch. This is Island Innovation. So, welcome to episode 0 of Island Innovation. So, in this episode, we're going to be answering a lot of questions. What is this podcast series about anyway? What was the motivation behind creating this series? What will we be doing in this podcast series in the first place? How often will we be providing new episodes? And more importantly, who the heck are we anyway? And what is it exactly that we do?
Onassis, welcome.
Sure. Welcome.
And this is the first podcast for Island Innovation. It's been a long time coming. How long has it been?
It's been a couple of weeks.
Wow. And when you hear the name Island Innovation, you think of basically new ways, a new sort of thinking, and just how we can get businesses in the Bahamas to be that much more productive. And this applies to all businesses, new businesses, old businesses,
Right. So the problem here inside this country is that a lot of Bahamians don't have access to content that they should have access to, and this is basic information. I'm talking about getting your business started from absolute scratch. A lot of Bahamians out there spending a lot of money out of their pockets trying to pay for these things when there's no avenue to get this information absolutely free. So that's basically what Island Innovation is about. We're going to be starting a Bahamian-owned business from absolute scratch. And when I say absolute scratch, we don't even know what we're going to be doing. We don't even know what we're going to be talking about. So that's a brief overview of what's going to be happening inside of this podcast.
Wow, so we are literally about to go from 0 to 100.
Real quick, man.
Alright, I'm excited, man.
Yeah, same. So Stu, remember how we wasn't supposed to be doing this podcast at all?
I remember.
So the whole motivation behind this thing, what actually started first was we were going to do a podcast, but it wasn't going to be applied to small businesses. What was initially going to happen was we were going to focus on our clientele, which was more of already established small businesses or medium-sized businesses, and focus on digitization of these things. But the issue was that you didn't want to focus on starting Bahamian businesses from scratch. But the issue with that is you may think it was easy, but in reality, a lot of Bahamians, they don't know how to start a business. So that's the whole motivation behind creating this. So what we did was we split it into we have this Island Innovation allocated towards starting Bahamian businesses from scratch, and then the digitization of already established businesses, which would be grits and analytics, would be geared towards the more intermediate business owners and entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and this was a surprising thing that I didn't realize, that just how many Bahamians out there need access to basic business documents and ideas. And that's one of the great things about Island Innovation, is that we'll be able to help thousands of Bahamians who are looking at their idea and thinking, just how do I get this off the ground,
Yeah. Now you know what the podcast series is about and the motivation behind creating this series. So time to do a little deep dive into what exactly will we be doing in this podcast series and the information, documents, and links that we will be providing within the podcast. So this entire podcast is about 16 episodes long. Time frame for it, I think we don't want to exceed 30 minutes. I'm hoping we don't exceed 30 minutes. Kind of hoping we don't exceed 15, but depending on the content, we'll probably cut it in 2 or something like that and have like 0.5 episodes or something. Currently, we have about 16 episodes, starting from the opportunity, insights, and a strategic plan. That's the next episode. All the way down to funding and turning your company into an LTD. For each podcast, there's going to be a blog. And in addition to a blog, there's going to be a document that's transcribed for our deaf audience. So if you are unable to hear, then there's going to be a transcribed document for you to read every single word verbatim that was said during these podcasts. So you got the blogs, you have the transcribed documents. What other free things you want? So in each podcast, We're going to have a lot of different supporting documents to go through as we create this entire business plan. With this episode, we actually have an entire business plan created for each kind of specialty that we think Bahamians would want to make. For example, if you want to have a beauty salon business plan, there's a beauty salon business plan inside of Drive. If you have an architect business, there's an architect business plan in the Drive. Consultancy business plans are inside of the Drive. There's business plans galore inside of the Drive. So you get a business plan, all y'all get business plans inside of the Drive. And the Drive is only accessible once you were to subscribe to our newsletter on goldcollarltd.com. The second you subscribe, an automatic email will come through giving you access to not just the Drive files, but all of the different content that we provide on the site and different services as well. All right, so Stu, I have a question. Who the heck are we anyway?
That's a good question. And why should these people listen to us?
What's the whole point of this?
Well, when you talk about Gold Collar, it's really just Bahamian excellence in youth. What we aim to do is we aim to improve Bahamian productivity and Bahamian business processes so that we have a better Bahamas. And basically the way that we want to go about this is we want to change how people think and we want to change how people get their information. And that's what Gold Collar is all about. We are young professionals. We focus on tech and productivity and innovation and how we can improve things around the country and within the corporate sector. And that's what we do. And we're damn good at it.
Oh yeah. So I know regardless of how we say it or put it, there's always something that's going to be wrong with the guys behind the mic. If they have an age problem, we're like 24, by the way. We're 24. If there's a racial problem, we're black also, by the way. And in terms of, let's just say, education, I think we're pretty smart. We're okay. I mean, we dumb sometimes, but we're okay. Stuart has his bachelor's in tourism management and he has his master's in business innovation. I don't have a master's yet, but I have an associate's in engineering physics and I have my bachelor's in mathematics. So we're trying to change the game. There's a lot of talk. You always hear it around the Bahamas where people always leave the country because there's no opportunities available there. So what we wanted to do is leave the opportunities for ourselves. We're not sure if this is going to work at all, but it doesn't hurt to find out. And this is our way of giving back to the community that raised us by giving access to documents and information that you probably wouldn't find anywhere in the country without paying some money for it. So before we end this podcast, there's some terms and conditions, a couple of caveats that we need to talk about. The first thing is that the content that we're providing are plans that actually work for us. So we're not telling you that we are complete professionals. We're just telling you what worked for us. For me, I created a couple business plans before they got a lot of funding. One of my business plans got funding to up to $100,000. And this particular business plan for Gold Collar got me a couple of bucks as well. So you can take that with a grain of salt. Just to let you know that we're not telling you this is something that you're supposed to be doing. But it's okay if you want to follow us. Like we give you, it'll be okay. Just keep that in your head a little bit. That this is just a plan that we're providing that worked for us. There are limits to our expertise. We could talk about a lot of tech industry, information and innovation, but we've already told you the degrees that we do have and the applied work that we would have done so far in the past. So you can also take that with a grain of salt as well. In terms of information throughout the podcast, there's going to be a limit to how much information we will provide, primarily because this podcast isn't supposed to be that long anyway, but also because a lot of this information that we're going to be providing, we're going to give you the basics of it, because there are some people who actually do this thing for a living. Everybody got to eat. So we won't be providing you the full, entire, meat of how to create specified business plans, I should say. I think we're going to be creating an e-commerce business, more than likely, because we're going to have to make a site.
Okay.
Yeah, something that has e-commerce inside it. So that's the kind of idea behind this series. So how are you all going to listen to this podcast? So we have the podcast on different avenues. It's definitely going to be on the website, but Did you know Spotify came with Bahamas?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we definitely put it on Spotify. I had to pay for like a VPN from Spotify from time, but not free. So
Yeah, exactly.
so we're definitely going on Spotify now. There's also Apple Music. You can put that on Apple Music too. And I think you're making a YouTube channel. I don't know what it is that you're doing on YouTube, but when you look at the podcast on YouTube, you're able to see the sound, reverberating on the screen. So I was like, okay, bet. We need to have that. Yeah, we need to have that. So we're going to put that on there. And I think that's everything. So there's YouTube, Spotify, the website, Apple Music. And we're trying to make sure that it's easily accessible to everybody too. So we turned it into a podcast as opposed to a video series because one, we kind of broke. So we don't really have all of that best videography equipment. But also because it's a lot easier for you to have access to a podcast and, a piece of pen and paper if you don't really have, a laptop or something like that. So you'd be able to listen to this in your car, at work, in your house, by your Grammy, well. Alright, so it's about time to dip out. So we'd like to thank you guys for listening to episode 0. Journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. We hope you look forward to the next episode when we'll be talking about insights, opportunities, and strategic planning. We'll be making an idea from absolute scratch. We don't know what's going on, and neither will you. We'll be talking about idea brainstorming, talking about your passion, skills, problems worth solving, and the intersection of that is going to be your business idea. We'll be talking about pesto, we'll be talking about things like competition and using Porter's 5 forces models, a bunch of different new techniques that we think you're going to like. And there's also a lot of opportunities for you guys to be involved as well. This is our very first podcast that we're doing. Attached is the entire curriculum of the entire podcast. So if there's anything you think we need to add or take out, or even if we have to go back and do another podcast again, there's absolutely no big deal for us. So until then, you guys be blessed, have a great day, and thank you for listening to Island Innovation.